Hi, my name is Carly Wallen. I'm an assistant project manager for Barringer Construction, and I'm here to teach you today about construction cost estimating and scheduling. So what is a general contractor? So a general contractor is, I guess, the third part in the triangle that makes up a construction project. You've got a client, you've got an architect and engineer, and then you've got the general contractor. So how this works is a client says, I want an office building built. From there, they either go directly to an architect or engineer, or they hire an owner's representative, sometimes called a construction manager. That owner's representative is typically involved in the construction industry. From there, they take their knowledge to guide the client through the construction process, so a person who's not in the industry doesn't feel concerned, that they are guided through the process and they have someone looking out for them the entire way and helps run the project so that they don't have to put as much brain power per se to this job. So from there, they say, hey, I want a building, this is what I want. They hire an architect and an engineer. The architect is the one who designs the building, and the engineers help ensure that it functions properly and can stand up and support itself. Once those two players are involved, then we get involved. Sometimes we are involved when it's just a design idea. They call us and say, hey, help guide us through the construction process so that we can determine if we are creating a building that meets our needs. Or they've got a fully fleshed out plan ready for construction and they put it out to bid. From there, multiple general contractors will do a cost estimate and a schedule in their proposal to attempt to win that work. Once the work is won is when our job begins. We oversee the entire construction process from breaking ground to completion, but we are not the ones doing any actual work. Sometimes people self-perform, but most of the time we never take a hammer to nail. We hire subcontractors. See the title and the name? They are a sub-portion of a contractor. We are the main contractor and they are a secondary contractor involved in the project. We hire the subcontractors for all the different trades. A trade is a division of the construction industry. So, for example, in the bottom left-hand corner, we have a site work or earthwork trade subcontractor. Those are the people that get the site ready to be constructed. In the middle, we've got an electrician. And on the right-hand side, we've got a drywaller or carpenter, depending on where you live. So who are general contractors? At Barringer Construction and all general contractors as a whole, there are three main groups of people that are employed, and all three of them work together. You are a team. These are not individual people. These are not tiers. That's why it's all shown in a line. Since today, we're focusing on cost estimating, we are going to talk with our estimator, Kevin, and he's going to give a brief overview of what he does.
Hi, my name is Kevin Mertens. I am the Director of Pre-Construction with Barringer Construction. As my title probably implies, I handle anything that is before construction starts. So a lot of estimating and reviewing drawings, working with architects, things of that nature. I have been in construction since I started working. I started when I was 16 years old, in the field, working as a laborer, just kind of doing anything, cleaning the job site, just helping in any way I could. Fell in love kind of right away. Have always kind of had a passion for working with my hands. Have always just loved creating something out of nothing, which I think is one of the most fun things in construction, is just seeing something come together. As I kind of grew, I ended up going to school for civil engineering and kind of went in my professional construction path after that, which eventually led me to pre-construction and estimating. So I just kind of have always enjoyed setting a project up for success right out of the start, which is one of the things you do in pre-construction. By getting the initial drawings from architects, we will take those and get pricing from subcontractors, start to look at schedule, start to think about really how we're going to build a building, and then figure out how much that's going to cost, and try to then communicate all that to owners that maybe don't necessarily know a lot about construction. So Again, pre-construction estimating plays a big role in getting projects and construction started off on the right foot and really set them up for success, which is kind of why I love to do what I do. So, thanks.
I am an assistant project manager. What that means, just like the name of my position, is I assist the project manager. What a project manager is they are the main point of contact for the client. They are the person that directs everything from the office side. So they write the contracts, they do the budgets, they handle all of this shop drawings, submittals, everything on the front end of the project in order to make it happen. And then you've got the ancillary support staff, like me, an assistant project manager, project engineer, and then additional admin, people who help with the paperwork, etc. Then the other part of this team is the superintendent. They are the person dedicated to our site. They are out there every single day whenever construction work is occurring in order to ensure that we are delivering a quality product, and if any questions arise along the way, they are there to answer it. They monitor safety. They work with the architect if there's any existing conditions that come up or any questions that happen. We are all just this big team in order to make a construction project run smoothly. So, where do our projects come from? Like I said, we talked about the architect and the client coming up with a plan. Then we've got the estimator, project manager, superintendent, all working together to create a schedule. At the same time, an estimator is creating the cost estimate, which we then put together in a proposal to attempt to win the work. So when do we make a proposal? That is after the architect comes up with the design, we create the proposal, and then we hope that we build a relationship with this client and they hire us to do the work. Here is an example proposal. Starts off with just a basic cover page. From there, it shows previous work that we've done. Then it shows the project team. You've got Brian Didiano. He is our project executive, which means he leads our company as a whole. But then you've got all the other people involved, the project manager, general superintendent, assistant project manager, superintendent, and then it's showing the pre-construction portion. Pre-construction is another word to use to describe the estimating portion of construction. So that's the front end of the job before any ground is broken. Project coordination, that would be the person who handles most of the paperwork, and then a safety manager. This is just a profile of one of my coworkers. This is a zoomed in further description of a previous project that I was actually involved in. This is over in Morrisville. We're currently completing the first floor, but these pictures are from the 4th and 5th floors of this job. It was an existing building and we just did an upfit, which is a floor renovation. Instead of building new, we just ripped out what was existing in there, got it down to the structure, and created a new space for them. It talks about the type of safety we do. Here at Barringer, we're really big on branding. You can see we've got the silly imagery. I just wanted to make a quick side note is one other piece of actually of any company, architecture, construction, anything like that, is the marketing. This presentation was not put together by a project manager, estimator, or superintendent. We have dedicated marketing staff. So if you're interested in design, but maybe not necessarily designing a building and like the creative aspect, you could go into marketing as well. But anyway, back to our job. We've got a COVID prepared plan. And then from here, this is really good to see the phases of construction. Over in the upper right-hand corner, you've got the design phase, which is where the architect is working with the client to determine what they want. The pre-construction phase, which is the estimating and the scheduling. We present that to them, and if they like all of that, then we move forward into the construction phase. Project turnover is when the job is complete and we give them their final documentation. And then post-construction, most general contractors give a minimum of a 1-year warranty on all of their work. So if our clients have any issues or any products not working, they can give us a call and we will be right back there to help them out. And then lastly, they have the schedule and then a cost estimate as well included. So that's why this is so important to help win us work, to see a schedule built before we actually win the job. This is one more breakdown showing the budgeting process, and this is another example. Instead of having just a straight up estimate, this is showing where the money is going percentage-wise. So for this job, a huge portion of that is electrical, and that tends to be true for most jobs. The mechanical, electrical, and plumbing tend to be some of the highest budget numbers, along with the metal, drywall, and framing, because if you think about it, those are the biggest key elements to make a building, office space, whatever we're doing, function properly. So why do we do this? For money? No, I'm just kidding. That's not why we do cost estimating and scheduling. Really, why we do this is to understand the project. If we do not go through these things thoroughly, figure out how much this project is going to cost, and figure out how long it's going to take, we cannot properly do our job, and we cannot properly set the client's expectations. Another good advantage, though, to regularly doing cost estimating and scheduling is that if someone calls us up and says, hey, I'm interested in doing this, but I don't really have anything figured out, would you be able to send me a rough budget? Basically, from doing all of these estimates over time, you can create a database, and you internally then end up taking this as just knowledge that you could off the top of your head say, oh, okay, you're looking to do this. That'll probably take you about 6 months, and then it would be roughly X price per square footage. My boss just had a phone call like that today. But lastly, of course, we do need to do this to win jobs, but that is not the sole purpose of this. The sole purpose of this is to understand your project, because that is so key to avoiding any mistakes, keeping your client happy, and delivering a great product. So, how do I make a cost estimate? The biggest, crucial, most important thing that you have to do is read the plans. Once you go through and read the plans, read all the text, don't just look at the images. You've got to go through everything. Architects make their plans differently. There are no universal plans. So from there, some architects might put something in one place or put it in a different place. You've got to look through things thoroughly to make sure that you've got everything covered. One crucial thing to do is highlight any unique items. Are there any things that you haven't dealt with? Are you seeing this as something that might take a long time to build? Do you see that it might not work? By highlighting these things at the beginning, we can open the dialogue for this immediately, to have conversations with the clients about how to remedy these issues, or to highlight that this will take a long time to do, etc. It's just good to know what potential challenges or unique items you have in a project. After you've read the plans, then you start to determine what trades are involved. By trades, I mean subcontractors, like we discussed previously, of an electrician, drywaller, things like that. So looking at this plan, this is just an example, but we've got walls. If those walls are made out of metal versus wood, that might be two different types of contractors. Traditionally, though, in commercial, they're made out of light gauge framing, and that would be done by your drywall contractor. So they actually frame the walls and then put the drywall up. You've got doors, which means you've got doors and hardware and door frames. So that's from a different contractor. I'm assuming we have ceilings. You can't tell from this plan, but if we have some sort of ceiling, then you hire a ceiling contractor, you hire a painter, you hire a flooring contractor. All of those people, you need to figure out who's going to be involved on this project. So from there, you send your plans out to all of those people that are involved. Normally, when you go out for a traditional commercial cost estimate, you send it to a minimum of 3 subcontractors, so then you can take all 3 prices and compare them at the end. After you send them out to the subcontractors, you normally give them a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, depends on the scale of the project, to review. In that time frame, the estimator goes in and they do something called a takeoff, which they look at square footages of items, they look at quantities of items. You can see on this plan that everything highlighted in orange is a specific stud or wall type. Blue is a different stud or wall type. And then you've got those blue door shapes. Those are highlighting, that's actually counting how many doors that you have on the job. You've got a teal one too, because that's a different swing of a door. So you're basically going in and counting everything. That takeoff then helps you to compare pricing with the subcontractor's bids. because now you have a very thorough understanding of everything that's in your project. So you take all of the subcontractors' bids and literally put them next to each other, line item by line item. Did they get everything that you wanted? So then after the schedule is created, because this is being done at the same time that an estimate is being done, you need to go ahead and figure out your general conditions. So general conditions are your overhead. So that's my salary involved in the job, the project manager's salary, the superintendent's salary. But then you've got, how many dumpsters do you need if you're doing demolition? Do you need any additional cleaning crews? What's our project fee, etc. There's a bunch of items like that that come into play in general conditions. So this is an example of a cost estimate. You've got all of the subcontractors broken out into their respective trades in the dark gray rows. Within each row, you've got the work that's being done within them, and you've got the cost for each of those pieces of work. And so then down at the bottom, you've got your general conditions along with your sales tax, builder's risk, etc. And you've got your total at the bottom. One thing that an estimator does that's kind of an art that you learn over time is you start to budget for the unexpected or things that you have seen over time, because there's going to be gaps. Whatever the subcontractors send you, plus your fee / general conditions, does not necessarily make up the entire cost of the job. Like for example, under woods and plastics, they've got a rough carpentry line item. Mind you, this was a really small job, but we added in $280. Our subcontractor didn't tell us to do that, but we know from previous projects that we've had to buy extra pieces of wood to add support to TVs. It's called like wood blocking. So we've had to buy a lot of extra of that, and it's been an issue on previous jobs. So we added that in. That was not a price that a subcontractor sent us. That was just something from previous knowledge. So after you've budgeted for the unexpected, then you can go ahead, compile it all together, and present it to the client with your schedule. Sometimes after a meeting with the client, they say, well, this is what a target price that we have. This is a budget we have in mind, and you're over our budget that we have in mind. Can you please come into our budget, into our price point? From there, we can get a little creative and do something called value engineering. Value engineering is proposing cheaper alternates. So if they have a really expensive type of tile, we can propose a similar but lower grade tile or less expensive tile. So sometimes the estimating process isn't as simple as finishing a cost estimate and then sending it on to a client. Sometimes we go back and forth a few times to value engineer it and get it to a point that makes sense for them. So, as I said previously, at the same time an estimate's being created, a schedule is being created as well. So again, the number one most important step is you need to read the plans. So at the same time that the estimator has sent out plans to the subcontractor, you don't need to do it twice, but you just need to ensure that all of the plans have been sent to all of the subcontractors that are going to be involved. Then, once you get your scheduling program, there are many different types. This is Phoenix. I know Microsoft Project has a good one. I've heard of a few online-based ones, but I don't know the names off the top of my head, but there are multiple different scheduling programs. So you want to set your target start date, and then you just kind of want to do a brain dump. You just want to list every construction item that needs to occur. So you'll see down at the bottom left, we've got demolition, install shoring for a staircase opening. Shoring is temporary structural support. Saw cut, dig and inspect the footings that you just cut out and repoured. Wall layout, then you've got frame walls, and you've got in-wall rough-in, install ductwork and interior mechanical equipment, install stairs, frame hard ceilings. You just want to do a brain dump. This doesn't have to be in any particular order. Just think about every single construction action item that needs to occur on this job site. From there, then you want to go ahead and call those subcontractors after they've had time to read the plans. Once you call them, you can talk to them about the lead times on their materials, if they are concerned about anything that's going to take a long time to come in, or how long they just think in general any of the materials are going to come in. And also ask them for their construction durations, how long they think each construction action item is going to take. People who've been in the industry for a while can typically make a schedule like this just off of their general knowledge, but it's honestly the best possible practice to call the people that you would be potentially working with and ask them how long they think something is going to take in order to build your schedule. And like I mentioned a minute ago, you want to track your long lead items, which are any materials that might take longer than usual, because you cannot install something until you have it. So you need to ensure that your schedule ties together and you don't have installation occurring before delivery, because that can really drive a schedule. Just to zoom in a little further, there's three main parts of a schedule. You've got your development, design, and permitting, which would be the dates leading up to your start date. So you can talk about when you want your architect to be done with their design. You can talk about when you are going to submit it for building permit, how long you plan for that to take, which then sets your target date to start. From there, you want to put in your procurement, which is a fancy word for tracking your long lead time items. How long will it take you to procure your materials in order to actually build this project? Then you've got your just actual project timeline. So after you've gone through and done a brain dump of all your action items and figured out the durations, then you put them in order to the general construction process, and the scheduling program will then put a date out at the end. So how do you make your cost estimate? If you go online, this is what your project looks like, your assignment or your next activity looks like. We're going to zoom in here and show you the material rates, so they're at the bottom. So that first image was at the top of your assignment, and now this is at the bottom of your assignment, showing all the different materials you can have and their going rates. So you're not actually going to need to be calling any subcontractors. This is for your activity. What I had mentioned previously is how we do our work in the commercial sector. Let's go back up to the top, and you can see that the column headers are the description of the product, the unit, which quantifies how you calculate this product. You've got the quantity, the unit cost, and the total price. So from there, we're going to focus on bathroom tile. So they want us to specify the product type. Square footage is how this is quantified. That's how you go ahead and order the amount of tile you need per square foot. The unit cost we're going to determine from our unit rates at the bottom of our assignment. And then this automatically calculates the total cost for us at the end. So we've got bathroom tile. I've chosen the medium grade. You can see the tiles got 5, 10, and 25. If you were zoomed out, you'd see that those lines are dividing between the different grades of material. So the mid-grade has a $10 unit cost. So in order to determine my square footage, I'm going to do a takeoff of my project. So I highlighted the bathroom. Granted, it's not showing me the wall dimensions, the exterior wall dimensions. So the 8-foot dimension of the bathroom, the long dimension, is technically a little bit off, but it's better to have more material than less material. So as you can see at the top from the dimension string, the bathroom is 2 foot 10 wide. Easiest thing to do is to convert the dimension into inches. So 2 foot 10 is 34 inches, 8 feet is 96 inches. I multiplied them together to get 3,264 inches. Then you want to divide it by 144 inches. So that brings us to 22.67, which I rounded up to 23 square feet. Regardless of if it's 22.1 or 22.7, round up every time. From there, I go ahead and I enter in that I've got 23 square feet of medium grade tile at $10 a square foot. So when you multiply 23 square feet times 10, it equals 230, which I believe the file does for you automatically, and then it'll go ahead and total everything at the bottom. And this file, you do not have to calculate fees or general conditions or the cost of labor to build, which is essentially all of that wrapped up into one. They've got that pre-programmed for you. So all you have to focus on is your material selection and the quantities of it. So in summary, a cost estimate, or how to create a cost estimate, is you need to learn your plans, share the plans with the subcontractors, quantify, which is what we did before, count everything as you go, figure out size, shape, scale, budget for any items that aren't covered, determine length of project from schedule, qualify subcontractors through phone calls, and then compile a final price. For a schedule, again, number one key important thing is to learn the plans. You share the plans with the subcontractors, call the subs to find out durations and material lead times. You input construction items into the scheduling program, and then, like I said, I kind of do that as a brain dump and then adjust accordingly to a typical construction process. I'm going to add the durations to each item, and those durations you've learned from calling the subcontractors, and you need to determine what items drive the schedule. Like we talked about, if your sink is a custom-made sink and is going to take 15 weeks to come in, then you cannot install your sink until that point. So when you make your schedule and you've got your sink going in after, I don't know, a month, that's not going to work out. You got to adjust your schedule accordingly, and then that'll set your target completion. I know that was a lot of info tonight, but by no means should you be overwhelmed by all this information, because you do not need to go to this level of detail. You just need to pick out your materials, figure out your square footage of everything, and then from there it'll calculate your price based on the material selection that you have. Then you'll be able to see how much your idea might cost if you ever decided to build it.